Thank you. Thanks, Alex, for the warm words. Alex did attend a little session we did on goal setting. You'll be skipper someday, and this special occasion speech is oftentimes given at a funeral. They recommend that you do some projects outside the club, but I'm going to talk about somebody here now who's been very dear to my heart, and maybe you can relate, take it in, apply it to your own life. And those words were echoed in my mind way back when I was this high. Right? You'll be skipper someday. And my grandfather at the time was telling me what his father had told him, because they sailed on the high seas. Out here, they did the rum running, right? Illegal rum from St. Pierre to Newfoundland, a family of 9. They did whatever it took to survive. I talked to Lee over the break, and he talked about being a real person. And all I can say was this man was a real person. No holes barred, straight ahead, straight from the hip. And he spoke his mind. And I got the Toastmaster magazine, and it reminded me of my grandfather, Skipper Michael Joseph Bruce. And the first little highlight on the magazine was called Speak Up. And that was one of his ideas. Freedom of speech. That if you got something to say, say it. No matter what organization you're in, because people are going to try and where's Gary? He's not here right now. People are going to try and hold you under their thumb. And anybody ever been in that position? Anybody? In a bureaucratic environment? Nobody. But I'm sure you all have somewhere down the line in working with people. But he said, speak out, because it's our greatest ultimate freedom. We don't live in a communist country where you're pushed down, kept down, not free to do what you want. By freedom of choice, we can go anywhere we want right now, snap our fingers, make choices. It's free. And freedom of speech is that ultimate freedom. He taught me a very valuable lesson. It was called the yes man syndrome. Back in the days before unions, he was a civilian working on the U.S. Naval Base in Argentia. On his drive home, stopped the car. They did a random check, just make sure that the civilians weren't bringing out alcohol or cigarettes, because it was cheaper to buy them at the U.S. Naval Base to bring back into Newfoundland, of course. And the Naval Base was in Argentia. And so this arrogant security officer looked at him. What you got in your pocket there, Mac? Because he had checked the trunk and nothing. So my grandfather stood his ground and said, my name is not Mac, my name is Mike, and what's in my pocket is mine. In a nice way. It's none of your business. In a very nice way. It's called being assertive. And a lot of times we take that for granted, or we're afraid to take a stand. We're afraid to speak out and speak up. Speak our mind, because what's in your pocket's yours. Nobody can come and check your pocket. A police officer has to have a warrant to search you. Nobody can take away that right. And he spoke about your universal rights and freedoms, about speaking out, about not being afraid, right? Looking fear in the eyes, because we know that little devil that's poking at us, telling us, you know. And we sometimes get involved in that in institutions. But that day, and he drove on home, took a little bit of abuse from the security officer, but he put it further. He said, no, this is one battle that I'm going to fight to the end. So he went to the captain of the U.S. Naval Base. Said, I'm putting my job on the line. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to request a meeting with the President of the United States of America, because my rights are violated, and I know that the U.S. people do not take that lightly. Within 24 hours, the captain had it solved. The captain had it solved. And so sometimes you got to pick your battles. Some are not worth picking, but when it violates your rights and your dignity as a human being, it's a good battle to pick, I would think. Another quality of my grandfather, and he's instilling these in me because I'm the sidekick, right? I'm the Karate Kid. What's the guy's name again?
Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi. He's Mr. Miyagi, and I'm the Karate Kid. So I'm learning all this stuff. My dad's working. Mom is a stay-at-home mom, and I'm the sidekick. He's retired. This other idea of patience, and Alec talked about it. You know, we want instant gratification. We want the money to show up. We want things now, now. And just being around him, like fixing pipes. He was a pipe fitter. And being there when he got it wrong 5 or 6 times. Just no patience. We've got to do it right. Because you do it right the first time. You got patience to do it right the first time. You don't need to go in then and fix other problems in the house, because this preliminary foundational system of pipes is working well. And so this idea of patience, and I guess that's where fly fishing has really helped me out. I actually wrote a book, and there's the skipper there. I put him on the cover. Anybody here have a grandparent or a relative that means a lot to them? Anybody? And the hands go up. You know what it's like to have somebody real driving these values in a world where the TV is on, where the Hollywood syndrome is there. You got to look like, be like, act like someone else, the flashy cars, you know, P. Diddy, all the rest of this stuff. But having somebody real instill the values in you. And this idea of environmentalism. See, wisdom of the ages, it's called. These older generation folks, my grandparents, your grandparents, they knew just from wisdom, just in them, they had it to tell you that here's what's going to happen. The fishery is going to collapse. They predicted it. And taking care of the environment, doing your piece day by day. Now we have all the green campaigns. Had we had it back then, you probably wouldn't need all the green campaigns, but the way human nature is. So I just like to speak in praise of the Skipper Bruces of the world and the people who have influenced you and your teachers to speak out. Right? Know your rights and freedoms, because they're there. Don't take them for granted. It feels really good to be able to do that. And thanks for listening.